To the New York State Legislature 2016 joint budget hearing today on February 2nd, 2016. Pursuant to the state constitution and legislative law, the fiscal committees of the state legislature are authorized to hold hearings on the executive budget proposal. Today's hearing will be limited to a discussion of the governor's proposed budget for economic development. Following each presentation, there will be some time allowed for questions from the chairs of the fiscal committees and other legislators. I'd like to welcome, first of all, Mr. Howard Zemsky, Chairman and CEO of the Empire State Development Corporation, and the rest of the speakers who have joined us today. We look forward to your testimony. Your testimony will be followed by a question and answer period by members of the legislature. So at this time, I'd like to welcome from Western New York and begin the testimony of Mr. Howard Zemsky.
Thank you very much.
And, I'm sorry, before we do that, I am missing a little housekeeping. We are joined by several members today, and I do want to point them out. We're joined by Senator Liz Krueger, Senator Marty Golden, Senator Don Bonasek, Senator Diane Savino, and Senator Tim Kennedy. And I guess on the Assembly side, Assemblyman Farrell has some people to introduce.
I'm got Assemblyman Schimminger, Assemblyman Thiel, Assemblyman Petlow, and Assemblyman Walters.
So at this time, please go ahead. Thank you so much.
Chairman Young, Chairman Farrell, and distinguished members of the Senate and Assembly, good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today to discuss Governor Cuomo's 2016-17 executive budget for Empire State Development. This year's budget focuses on fiscal responsibility while leveraging strategies that work to keep the state's economy growing. By cutting small business taxes, investing in our infrastructure, and supporting regional economic development, opportunity and growth will continue for all New Yorkers. With the support from the state legislature, New York State has the lowest middle class tax since 1953, the lowest corporate income tax since '68, and the lowest tax rate for manufacturers since 1917. Additionally, unemployment is down in all regions of the state, and job creation is up. Statewide unemployment has fallen from a staggering 8.9% in 2010 to 4.8% today. There are 7.9 million private sector jobs in New York State, an all-time high, and the number of new jobs continues to grow. The governor outlined a comprehensive opportunity agenda recently, and as part of his plan and the economic development budget, the governor announced a commitment of $750 million for Round 6 of the Regional Economic Development Council REDC competition. Core funding in Round 6 would include $150 million in new capital funding and $70 million in state tax credits to support regional priority projects. Since the regional councils were launched, the state has awarded nearly $4 billion in economic and community development funding through the CFA for more than 4,100 projects. This has resulted in commitments of more than 200,000 new or retained jobs in New York State. In addition, the Upstate Revitalization Initiative, which launched in 2015 as part of the REDC competition, awarded $1.5 billion to 3 regions, Central New York, Finger Lakes, and Southern Tier. The regions were recognized as best plan awardees and awarded $500 million over the next 5 years. This year, the governor has proposed the launch of a new $200 million Upstate Revitalization Initiative to fund top projects for the runners-up from last year's URI, and a new $100 million downtown revitalization initiative. In addition, the governor is proposing to cut taxes for small businesses that pay via the corporate tax and those that pay through personal income taxes. Roughly 1.1 million small businesses statewide will benefit from this proposal, saving small businesses almost $300 million annually. The governor has made a strong commitment to combat poverty and help poor communities overcome challenges that prevent them from fully participating in the state's economic revitalization. Each regional council is now working to implement plans to remove barriers to employment and to establish new workforce development and skills training programs across the state. This year, the governor's budget continues to support historic funding of programs targeted to increase economic opportunity in these communities, such as Minority and Women-Owned Business Development and Lending Program and the Community Development Financial Institutions Program. In addition, the governor is proposing enhancements to the Urban Youth Jobs Program tax credit to encourage businesses to hire unemployed, disadvantaged youth. The governor has proposed a commitment of more than $50 million for tourism initiatives to continue to grow the state's tourism industry, which exceeded $100 billion in economic impact in 2014 for the first time in state's history. This is projected to have generated direct spending of $62.5 billion, producing an estimated $7.8 billion in state and local taxes. In closing, it has been an exciting and busy start to the new year, and ESD has a lot of work ahead. The governor's agenda builds on the accomplishments we have made since 2011, making New York State the place to do business. We look forward to these new opportunities and working together with you, our legislative partners, to move the economy forward. Thank you again for this opportunity to testify, and I'd be pleased to take questions.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And I know that we do have some questions from some senators, and so I'd like to start with Senator John Bonasek.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. First of all, I'd like to thank the governor for his concentration on upstate New York with the upstate revitalization. And I supported startup. I know there's been a lot of criticism initially, but I do think it's a concept that could work in time, and I think it is starting to work. So I only have one quick question for you, Mr. Commissioner. Last year, we gave $25 million that was allocated to restore New York communities through Empire State Development. This year, that amount has been reduced to $0. How come?
You know, the Restore New York program, one of the things that we learned when we went into the some of the Restore applications that we had in the past is that many of them hadn't been used, actually. So we kind of went back and scrubbed the list in terms of projects, and there are many that have been on hold for a very long time. So we still have, and we are going to be receiving applications for Restore New York grants. So I think we have that funding that will be available actually this year, because so many projects that had funds committed actually never moved forward.
Okay, so let me ask this question. Are you still, in your mind, committed to the Restore program? I understand what you've said is that it's slow moving the money because of applications and what have you. But is this going to be a priority that's no longer going to exist once you clear out the money that's been backlogged for the Restore applications?
Well, I think actually we are committed to the program. I think the governor is committed to the program. And some of the programs is not just kind of a backlog. Some of these are like 8 years old. So I think the idea is to really put that money to use where it can, you know, do some good. And a lot of these projects, maybe they were originally applied, but circumstances changed. And the money was never, the projects never went forward for whatever reason. So, you know, we're trying to go back and put that money to good use.
Do you have a policy where the money is swept if the program, if the project doesn't move, say within 5 years, you just sweep it and it becomes available money for new projects?
I know I'm not exactly sure what our policy after 5 years is, but I know that I think it would just make good sense to, if we've got these types of commitments and they're now over 5 years old and they're just languishing, let's, you know, take some of that money, I think, on a project-by-project basis. Let's see what the status of those projects are.
Okay. And my last question is always, every year, how you spread it geographically, metropolitan area versus upstate.
I'm sorry, say again?
In other words, the Restore projects that move forward, how many are moving in the metropolitan area, how many are moving upstate? You know, that we have a balance of...
Yeah, and I'd have to get back to you with the detail on that, but I know Restore applies throughout the state, and I know I've seen projects in all regions of the state that have applied and have gotten funding through Restore.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Summerman?
Robin Simminger. Question.
Commissioner, thank you very much for being here, and wonderful to see you. I brought with me a copy of our hometown newspaper, the Buffalo News, January 16th, a front page story, big headline, perhaps the camera can zoom in. Says, Como plan may offset revenue loss in Huntley closure. This excited my constituents. They were very happy and comforted to hear this. They asked their assemblyman for some details about the Como plan. I explained to them that last year, in a bill which was nicknamed the Big Ugly, we in the legislature and the governor enacted a fund, a mitigation fund, $19 million fund to help offset possible revenue losses which may occur upon the closure of a fossil fuel generating plant. I have one of those plants in Tonawanda. There are other plants around the state, Dunkirk, etc. None of these plants have yet closed, but the municipalities are deeply concerned about property tax revenue loss, pilot payment revenue loss. What guidance can you give us as to what the Como plan will be looking like? I'm hoping that perhaps in his 21 or 30-day amendments he will flesh out this fund, or perhaps by regulation. How can you further comfort my constituents?
Yes, and as a fellow Western New Yorker, I'm very keenly aware of the potential impact on closures of that, the Huntley plant and other plants in the state.
Okay.
The program is to mitigate the burden on the municipalities, and the money was designated to take effect, I believe, April 1st in 2016. So that money hasn't been available to us throughout this year, and there really hasn't been those closures this year. So I am very confident that we will be in a good situation, and we will have, you know, the rules will be clarified in terms of being able to assist municipalities who have lost substantive revenues from the closure of these plants. As you know, I read the law, it would have, the municipalities would have had to have lost at least 20%
From the plant.
from the plant before they could qualify. And it's not clear that the intention was to make it 100%, but to bring it up to so that the municipalities wouldn't be burdened by losses in excess of 20%. But meanwhile, these plants haven't closed, they haven't stopped paying property taxes, and there isn't any money actually to spend yet. So we are, I think, ahead of the curve still, and you were very ahead of the curve, having been on it now for quite some time, which I appreciate. But I'm very confident that we'll be ready. I know the governor's intention and the legislature's intention was to help these municipalities where their fossil fuel plants are closed and municipalities are impacted, and we will be ready to do that.
Thank you. You're right on target, and we both recognize that the dollars do not flow from NYSERDA into the fund, which is housed in your agency, UDC DED. Those dollars do not flow into the fund until this coming fiscal year, and at that point, the $19 million would be available should there be a plant closure or something like a plant closure and a concomitant reduction in property tax or pilot payment revenues.
Agreed.
Yeah. I read the Buffalo News all the time. Tom, are you listening? Back in 2012, the governor made some comments about a new program. It was the program that came with great expectations. Senator Bonasek has referenced it. Yep. The Startup New York program.
Yeah.
He said, I believe it is the boldest economic development program for upstate New York ever, period. And he says, period. This is on a scale that has never been attempted before. So the program has been one of great, great expectations. Mm-hmm. And last year at this time, at this budget hearing, we would very much have liked to have seen the first annual report for the year, the first full year, 2014, but that report was not promulgated until after April 1st, so we didn't see it. All we have, therefore, now is the 2014 annual report that came out in April of 2015. And in that report, it identified that there were 30 companies in the program in 2014, and that those 30 companies had created a number of jobs, 76. I know your report is not yet ready for 2015, but are you in a position to be able to tell us something about that small subset, those 30 companies that were in the program back in 2014 that generated the 76 in that year? Have they generated many multiples of that 76 or more than 76? Just those 30 companies.
Yeah,
Can you tell us that?
I haven't brought data by company or subsets, but maybe I can just talk about, the startup program for a bit, if you wouldn't mind, because I think your question also more broadly was about the program. And, I got to be honest with you, I'm a big fan of the Startup New York program, and I've seen it grow dramatically over the past year. And I feel bad that it got off on the wrong foot, because I think this has a great opportunity for New York State. I just do. And I've seen these companies now, 150 companies, some of which I'm familiar with. These companies now have committed literally to thousands of jobs, hundreds of millions of dollars of investment. And importantly, they connect with our institutions of higher learning across the state, both public and private. And I think if you did a business plan for New York State, you would have to build, of course, like any good strategic plan, on your assets. And I don't think anyone would disagree that one of our greatest assets are colleges and universities. So for too long, we lost these businesses. We lost promising companies to other states. We've got a program here to keep these promising companies. Some of these businesses graduate from incubators and they go into the Startup New York program. I think you're going to see some of these businesses generate an enormous number of jobs. And I think it's a compelling opportunity for these communities. And we're starting to see it now, 160 go up to, with another 20 in queue. It's a great opportunity for the state to mine. We're seeing college students get internship opportunities with the businesses. The whole point was to connect a business with a college where their focuses align. So it's naturally a good opportunity for students. And you're seeing academics who resisted the possibility of commercializing their own research consider business and commercialization in ways that they hadn't before. So there are a million reasons why I think this program makes sense, but mostly connecting students, connecting research, and connecting industry. It's how Silicon Valley got started. It's all about innovation, it's about entrepreneurship, and it's about planting seeds for the economic future of this state. I don't know which of these businesses are going to be great successes. Many of them won't be great successes, and that's kind of the nature of these. They're many times startup businesses, and they're entrepreneurs, and they're people who are optimistic. But some of these are going to have thousands of employees. And I don't know, we've been a state for a couple hundred years without Startup New York. Let's go a couple of decades with Startup New York and see what happens, because I think we really are planting seeds with very exciting, very enthusiastic, young, talented people and academic institutions. And I promise you this program will be a success, and it doesn't burden existing businesses in the region. It's really utilizing properties on campuses that are in many ways underutilized. So I like this program. I have a ton of respect for the governor and the legislature for approving this program. I do think it's a game changer for New York State, but I think it takes a little bit of time. We didn't even get our first company till more than halfway through 2014. We got 70 colleges and universities in the program now. It is really gaining traction. I want to give a lot of credit, frankly, to Leslie Watley, who has been incredibly tenacious in this program. I think many of you know Leslie and the team at SUNY. This is a program that's worth sticking with, and I think it's worth giving this program the benefit of the doubt. I think it's important.
When we see the report that will cover 2015, and presumably we'll see that report in April coming. We will probably see that number you just gave, I think, of 140 companies now in the program, or something like that?
Yeah, as we speak right now, I think there's actually over 157 as we speak
in the
sit
program
here today. I think by next month it'll probably be 180.
Okay, companies in the program.
Yeah.
That's to be contrasted with number of companies in the program, 30 in 2014, right?
Yeah.
It would be instructive to me, because what we're going to see then in this report is we're going to see net new jobs created, some of them from these new companies that just came in.
Yeah.
But what I'm most curious about is to take a look at those incumbent companies that have now a track record in the program.
Yeah.
They were in the program in 2014.
Yeah.
I would love to see how that slice of companies that were in the program in 2014 now, going forward into the next year, 2015, have grown. That would be very instructive.
Okay, great. And you know, I honestly don't know the answer to that question sitting here. I tell you, I don't know. I mean, you're going to find some of these businesses have done better than they thought. You're going to find some probably haven't done as well as they originally imagined. It's no different than any other business. It generally takes longer and costs more. That's, you know, a lesson I've learned in business for 35 years. Things take a while, and they generally cost more than you think going in. But I got a lot of respect for these companies and these people and the entrepreneurs. They're really putting it out there on the line, and I think they're working hard to make it happen.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman. So, President Zemsky, first of all, I want to personally thank you for always being willing to listen, and you and I have had many discussions about possible economic development projects that would benefit the southern tier, Livingston County, and the Finger Lakes that are part of my district. So I'd like to thank you for that, and I know you've been in my district many, many times. Assemblyman Schimminger was talking about the fact that he opened the Buffalo News and there was a big article on the front page, and his constituents got very excited about it. I have to echo the same words, except it's a different project, and a lot of my constituents in Chautauqua County were very excited to hear that there's a line item in the governor's executive proposal that would allocate $200 million to Chautauqua County. And so I've received a lot of questions, and I was wondering if you would be able today to fill them in about what is happening with that line item. They're very anxious to know.
No.
No, okay. I suspected that might be the answer.
No, it hasn't.
We have seen some information in the newspaper, apparently, that's out there.
No, I know it's an exciting project. You know, what I can say, which probably what you already know, that I would imagine this is a commercialization center, so it's production oriented. It would, you know, be in the model of, you know, the CNSE SUNY Poly model, where the state would, you know, own the assets and own the facility, and it would be, you know, what I think you would call 21st century industry and innovation. So I think it would be very exciting for Chautauqua County. I'm not at liberty to say more detail about it, but I share your enthusiasm about it. You know, we've been able to, I think, leverage the relationships that you know, Nano has developed with leading companies around the world, technology, and even life science companies. So I think that'll be another example of that, and I should probably stop there.
Very good. So stay tuned, right?
Right.
Right, got it. I assume it's the same answer for and my colleague wanted me to ask this, the $125 million for SUNY Polytech Institute Colleges of Nanoscience in Clinton County.
Correct.
So, correct.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I look forward to working with you in the future as we move this project forward. And I do want to mention just a couple of other things in Western New York, and then I'll move on to my colleagues. During the transportation hearing this past week, there was discussion about finally getting started again, finishing Route 219, which I know you're very familiar with.
Yep.
And I think one of the impediments over the past several years that has stopped progress has been the fact that there was a lack of federal funds available. And now that the federal government has passed transportation funds, I would love to be able to work with you to get this kick-started again. There are several stakeholders, as you know. We've looked at logistics, we've looked at economic development, and there are many, many exciting things happening in Western New York right now. And to have that major north-south route that would go from Toronto, Canada, all the way down to Florida would be phenomenal. And I know that other states are making great progress. And so I just want to bring that up to you because I think that this is a really great opportunity and would only add to what the governor and the legislature has been able to accomplish over the past couple of years regarding economic development in Western New York. So look forward to working with you on that.
Okay, thank you, Senator.
Okay, thank you. And finally, just want to bring up the New Forest Economy. Thank you for your support on that. Very excited about that project too in Allegheny and Cattaraugus counties and being able to use useful elements of wood products that we have many trees, as you know, in the southern tier, and be able to build on that to really grow the economy in the southern tier also. So thank you for that. Okay, Assemblyman?
Assemblyman Field.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioner. It's good to see you again today. My focus for my committee is on small businesses, and one of the things I wanted to just offer today is that when the committee gets rolling here for the year, we'd love to have you come and speak and address the committee and take questions. So hopefully we can get in contact with you and set that up at some point.
Yep, would love to do that.
That'd be great. Thank you. Again, you're focused on small business. I see, that one of the governor's proposals this year is a tax cut for small businesses with regard to either the corporate tax cut or those that pay through the income tax, which I think is certainly a good step. My question, though, relates to property taxes. Still, when I'm from Long Island, and I think in the suburbs in general, when I talk with a lot of the people that operate small businesses, like homeowners themselves, it's the property tax that really seems to be the thing that pours cold water on their ability to expand and has an adverse impact on them. Was there any thought given for this budget to looking at possible assistance to small businesses as far as the property tax?
The assistance, I think, has come primarily in the form of income tax assistance, reduction of tolls, things of that nature. I know for many years now, the governor has identified the property tax as one of the most burdensome tax on New Yorkers, businesses, individuals, and hence the property tax cap as a real focus of recent years. I'm familiar with IDAs as vehicles for tax abatements in exchange for investment in plant and equipment and job creation. But I think in this year's budget, most of the business assistance is in the form of income tax relief.
And I wanted to also just follow up a little bit on the Startup New York. I guess that's certainly a focus here of the legislature. And I do understand that a program like this, it takes a while to roll out. It takes a while to see the results. I guess my two questions would be: one is, what a constituent comes to me, or somebody in my district comes to me and says, "How's that Startup New York program going?" What are, from your perspective, the parameters? What are the things that we should be looking at to gauge the success of that investment from a cost-benefit point of view? We're investing money in that, certainly, or foregoing revenue with regard to that. How do we measure, ultimately, whether it's 2 years from now or 5 years from now, and we look back at what's been done, how do we measure success? What parameters should we be looking at?